Okay, greetings again. It's the afternoon of June 2nd. Got my reading glasses on. I also have one of my copies of the Constitution of the United States. Now, I don't care as much for this copy. Galco provided that to me in a couple of packages they sent me. Fine people up in the northern part of Phoenix make good leather products. Charge a little bit too much for them. Well, maybe not. The fact is, they aren't cheap, and they sure are good. I wish they made their own chin sling again, the original one. I could sell them so many it's not funny. But they've got to make huge numbers to make a profit, but I still think that's the best sling ever developed. It's on the Jeff Cooper Scout rifle. And I'll never give mine up, because I got one of the original ones, and it fits so damn good. It's just wonderful. You can't give up something that you know works. It's kind of like this. Now, I like this other version that's printed in downtown Phoenix better. It's about the same size, but it doesn't have the fancy color photo. It's just got red, white, and blue on black and white on the photo. Why do I like that one better? Well, there's a footnote on the 13th Amendment. And that's important. And the footnote is basically to let you know that there's a discussion about what is the original 13th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment is the amendment whereby we get our republic back. And and it's also the law of the land. And most people don't know that. But you know it now. So the original 13th Amendment was ratified in 1812. As a result of the War of 1812, which the attorneys got us in. Don't ask me how they got us into that war. That's for historians to handle. But what I'm going to tell you is that we don't have a Second Amendment. It's written in here, but it was taken away from us. And it was taken away from us in 1902. And until we have this, we don't have a Second Amendment. We don't. You think owning guns is the answer? It's not. And we don't need a wall. We need a will. And they took away from us the most important part of our government. Only once in the entire Constitution is the word necessary written. And I just had a conversation with a Republican gubernatorial candidate for Arizona. And she was not for this. She was afraid we'd get shot up and cut up. She doesn't seem to understand that we have to return to self-rule, and she doesn't seem to understand. Most nobody understands. We're in a big war. And this is just an extension of that war, our nation, and our position in history. And the United States of America was foretold in the book of Genesis towards the end of it. So those people in the churches that tell you, well, the United States of America isn't in the Bible, hogwash. They don't know the Bible. They went to the seminaries run by the evil ones, controlled by the bad guys. So what I'm looking for is the word necessary in all of this. And I don't know if I'm going to find it right away. I really do need to read this more because things are in different orders than what I remember. So let's go to the amendments to the Constitution. Okay. We don't have free speech anymore. Our legislators deprived us of our Fourth Amendment rights with the Patriot Act. They should all be tried as traitors as far as I'm concerned. Everybody that's involved in one of those Patriot Acts ought to be charged with treason and become felons, removed from the country even. So we're looking at the Second Amendment. Look at it. It's short. It's sweet. Look at Amendment 3. It's pretty short too, but not as short as Amendment 2. Now that doesn't mean it's less important. It's actually the only place in the entire Constitution that the framers used the word necessary. It only appears here. Now I'm going to read this to you as exactly as it's written. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia, the M on militia is capitalized, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state. In other words, we're not free men. And we don't have any security because we lack a militia, a well-regulated militia. Let me continue, comma. The right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. Every one of these gun laws that's on the books now, the Gun Control Act of 1968, the National Firearms Act, the Hughes Amendment, the, what was that guy who took away gun rights from misdemeanor convictions on domestic violence? Senator Lautenberg, I think that's what his name was, a jackass. And all the stuff that Ronald Reagan did by taking away full auto small arms. I mean, the militia had those. Yes, they had full autos back then. Look up the pickle gun. We had automatic guns and we owned them. And we could have whatever we wanted, cannons or whatever. However, we've been infringed because they took away our militias with the 1902 Dick Act, also called the Militia Efficiency Act of 1902. And they eliminated that, and they took away that and gave us a National Guard just controlled by the federal people. It's not right. It's not constitutional. The only thing that's constitutional is a militia, a well-regulated militia. And that refers to the 13 colonies all had militias. And you had some that were private, but for the most part they were under the governors. They were state militias, and some of those original colonies wrote up in their constitutions the militia. Every able-bodied man, generally speaking, above the age of 20. And 20 is the year, the age given in the Bible for Israelites. Israelites could not serve in the military until they were 20 years of age. And they weren't required to go to war under 20 years of age. Also, if they'd just been married, they were given a year grace period, couldn't go to war. If they had just planted a vineyard, couldn't go to war. If they just built a house, there were certain conditions upon which they could not be drafted into service. They could not be called. The colonies did things a little bit differently, but not a lot differently, and there were major improvements with them. So the right of the people to keep and bear arms, A in arms is capitalized, and that means small arms, arms period. So they didn't make any distinctions back then. Of course, we've got a jackass in the White House that talks about F-15s, that we can't have F-15s. Well, I can assure you that back then, if they had F-15s, the average man who could afford one would have had one. You can still buy cannons. You can still buy these other arms that they don't want you to have, but they require special tax fees, special applications and all that, which are all unconstitutional. As a matter of fact, there are taxes on arms and firearm and ammunition, which are unconstitutional, which for the feel-good reasons even the stupid Republicans allowed to exist. Yes, I'm all for conservation. I'm all for maintaining, being good stewards, good defenders of the land, good conservationists. But we shouldn't be taxed on guns and ammunition. That's a violation of our right to bear arms. And even these sales taxes these states have on guns and ammunition, they shouldn't be. Those are infringements. The NFA tax stamps are infringements, done under the color of law. But I think they're illegal as can be, and I look forward to the day when the United States Treasury is forced to refund at a rate of threefold, since these were done under fraud. It's all fraud, and there's no statute of limitations on fraud, and the general legal, the tradition is you repair a guy threefold when you've committed fraud against him. That's 3 times the damages you have to pay the guy. Yes, I've been defrauded. It was pretty recent, and anyway, I can't go into detail about that right now, and that's not the important thing. There's another section in here, and I can't find it just offhand, but it says the militia is tasked with 2 specific, expressly written tasks in the Constitution. And the first is to quell insurrections or riots. George Washington had to do that. The Whiskey Revolt or Rebellion, he had to do it then. So, Black Lives Matter. And what's this other group? Antifa. A bunch of fascists they are, yet they say they're against fascism. Antifa. And what was that group beforehand? I don't remember, but they did a lot of littering, a lot of damage. Those were, the militia was to quell those. Not only that, the militia is specifically detailed with repelling invasions and defending our borders. And every able-bodied man served in the militia above the age of 20. And there were laws. Generally speaking, the laws were you had to have a long arm, like a musket, and you had to have 200 rounds of ammunition for it. You also had to have a sidearm, a pistol, and you had to have a short sword. So by law, all the members of the militia supplied these on their own. The government doesn't pay for them. So when we restore our militias, and we're going to be forced to do this, those people who think that the federal government will come in and cut up our militias, well, we're not going to have a choice because the government's not defending us. We are going to have to defend ourselves. And I think the first governor who calls for the militia is going to draw a lot of men to them, a lot of attention. And my suggestion to these people running for governor in Arizona is have yourself a press conference and announce that you're going to create a state militia, which Arizona has never had. See, the militias were all quashed in 1902, unconstitutionally, illegally, by the Central Federal Communist government. And Arizona wasn't a state until 1912. So if Arizona was to have a militia under the governor, well regulated, we can defend that. And I don't think that means that they invade us to kill us, but if they do that, then we know it's full game on. And I think it's foolishness to deprive our people of self-defense. And that's what we are. We are defenseless right now. Now, I think that as governor, if I was governor, I would task the militia with patrolling the public schools. Take whatever long arms, short arms, whatever you want in the schools, and patrol the schools. That would put a stop to the school shootings. There wouldn't be any more school shootings. And you may say it's going to cost us. Well, yes and no. You don't have to buy ammunition. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to buy the armaments. You don't have to buy rifles, pistols, short swords. The men will bring their own. And you might even be able to get the men to do their own uniforms too. And that's the way it should be. However, the governors will have to provide legal defense, legal counsel and defense. The attorney generals will have to go to bat for their state militias. If the attorney general's not willing to do that, then you shouldn't have a militia. Because while acting as a member of the militia in good standing, a well-regulated militia, I mean, you've got men over you, you have officers and sergeants above you. While acting in that capacity, they have to defend you. They have to defend you. And the fellow running for Attorney General for Arizona told me he would defend this and take it all the way to the Supreme Court, which is where it needs to go. But we will never restore the Republic. We will never be a free state. We will never be secure until we restore self-rule. We did this for ourselves. Let me tell you how strong and how important the militia was. There was a group of drinking buddies, if you will. And they decided that they were going to, they boasted in the tavern and were drinking one night. And they challenged one another. They boasted about how they could take Fort Ticonderoga from the British with one arm behind their back, or their arms tied, or hands tied, or something. Well, the problem was it wasn't that easy to get to, and they had to sort that out. But in their imbibing their liquid courage, they did it. They woke up the next morning inside the fort, having taken it, without really realizing quite where they were and realizing the profound nature of what they had done. But Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain men took Fort Ticonderoga. They figured out how to put steps in the swamp that was defending this fort, and they got right in there. Now, most of the militias were under the governors, and in the state of New Hampshire, the militia, there was a famous incident at Exeter, New Hampshire. See, the capital of New Hampshire was in Portsmouth, which was a harbor town, harbor city, and there was great fear that that was vulnerable to the British attack because the British had the Navy. And so to defend the capital, they moved it inland temporarily to Exeter, New Hampshire. And the legislatures were negligent, and they were failing to do their duty. And the militia surrounded the building in which the legislators met. Once all the legislators were in there, they surrounded the building. And they went inside and announced to the legislators, until you get this business done at the state and you've done your duty to write this legislature up so we can take care of this particular matter, this peculiar matter, you're not leaving. No one leaves and no one enters. You're not leaving. Restrooms were outside back then. And nobody's coming in to serve you any beverages, any food. You're getting nothing. And they stayed there surrounded that night until the legislators got their work done. The militia had so much power that if there was an errant sheriff, the militia would go in and take the man into custody. Usually the medical examiner was the one that arrested the sheriff, but he didn't do it by himself. And if the sheriff had something that required more manpower, he summoned the militia, and the militia backed him up. Now, what I'd like to see is this 4th of July, I'd like to see one of these gubernatorial candidates stand up and declare the necessity of the full Second Amendment, including a militia for the state of Arizona. I believe men are going to flock. Money's going to pour in. Not a word else be said. The news will take this across the country like it's a giant insult to the federal government and to the rest of the nation. But it's the only way to save this nation. Yahshua, Jesus, told us, hold your ground, stand your ground, be not deceived, do not be deceived. That's what he said. An important symbol of old, an important one, a major blessing. I haven't figured it out, but I saw it in Greece, up in the mausoleums, up in the temples they had built, of Jesus the Christ, up there giving a blessing, 2 fingers side by side. He gave us 2 commands which he repeated in the New Testament and the Gospels. Read that. So we need a modern militia. And the men I have talked with about this say they'll be there. So I think it'll have to be well regulated. I don't think that's a problem. You'll have men volunteering with good experience. You might even get a general, a retired general. I'd rather have nobody above, the rank of lieutenant colonel, to be honest with you. I don't trust the colonels and above very much. They're too political. I'd love to have some captains. Some retired captains would be really good. And of course, we've got the sergeants who actually did run the Army. They didn't trust the officers to do that job. We would have those guys as well. And I know some of those fine gentlemen, and they've served in some incredible incredible positions and done some incredible things that only Superman could do. Oops. Oh, there I go. I'm a white supremacist again. Superman, like the Germans talked about, or at least they were accused of that. I have news for you. We're in a war. It's an unlimited war. They're not going to back off from the inflation. That's being done by the Federal Reserve on purpose. It is designed that way. And Biden is not some demented fool. He's doing exactly what he's told, and everything he's being told to do is to destroy this nation. You see, they want us to fight. Not like we've been fighting. They want us to actually go barbaric. They want us to get very physical and really bad. They want us to really get down into the gutter and fight. If we can make it through this next election cycle, then they know that they're the period in which they can get us to fight the most, with the most disaster, will have passed. And if we can just make it through there, great. Even if they pull off their election fraud, if we can make it through to there with this level of peace that we have now, I'll consider it a blessing. We need our militia. And if I was governor anywhere, I'd have my militia patrolling the schools, armed. The school shootings would stop. And those leftists who want to take our guns away would be stopped dead in their tracks by that, because they couldn't pull off these things that they've been scripting up. I think a lot of these things aren't really happening. I don't trust the news media. Do you? I don't trust our central government. Do you? I don't trust our FBI. Do you? I don't trust our CIA. Do you? I don't trust our politicians. Do you? You see, we're under a corporate government right now, created about 1871, and Ben Franklin committed a major faux pas. And he inadvertently, I don't know if the gentleman knew what he was doing, but he created a corporation that lay dormant until Abraham Lincoln was elected president. I don't have all the details on this, but from my understanding is there are 4 different corporations with slightly different spelling, a different, what is that called? Preposition, different conjunction or something, or a simple change of capitalization in the name of one letter, perhaps even. They changed things on us slowly over time and committed a bunch of frauds. And so even our state governments are corporations. That's not an organic government. We need to return to organic governments. I really don't have time to argue with anyone or listen to somebody else telling me what they're going to do or what they think, because they won't go by common sense. They won't go down to the nuts and bolts. They won't read the Constitution and understand the wisdom of our founders. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We do have to do what Klaus Schwab says. We need a great reset, right to the original Constitution, right to the original 13th Amendment, cutting out all subsequent amendments as illegal and out of order. And we need to get rid of that Federal Reserve, and we need to acknowledge right now that there is a world government, and the king is a Rothschild. And he's got a lot of minions underneath him. We need to set all of those people aside. We let those people into the country here, and they've taken us over. Now Yahweh, I don't know, did he orchestrate this? He must have given them permission. But did he give them, he gave them permission to sift us. But did Yahweh give their permission to kill us? To genocide us? Now you go listen to my other channel in which I tell you why white supremacists, why does the FBI continually parrot the most dangerous thing to the country are the white supremacists, which is a bunch of hogwash. There's nothing wrong with the white people in this country. There's something wrong with the people that are running our government, the people that Biden has appointed, the people that are waging war against the will of the people. The electorate has not been in charge of this country since Woodrow Wilson was elected. We've been forced into wars that we don't want. They wage wars without ever declaring them. This fiasco over the Ukraine is a big deal. And the Rothschild inheritor complained to the UN that if it didn't get, that if they didn't prevail and if it didn't go much more violent, much more forceful, much more war in the Ukraine, that the New World Order would be finished. Now, I'd like to have my nation back. I want to restore the Republic. I think I can do that. The problem is they've dumbed down the public to the point where the public doesn't understand. And everybody thinks their opinion has to be given equal weight to everybody else. Hogwash. Your opinion doesn't have equal weight to my opinion. I'm educated way beyond my means. This is just part of my education. I'm not well schooled on this. I like the Bible better. I like the Apocrypha better. And I like the Declaration of Independence better, especially since all of those amendments are unconstitutional and out of order. What's this about the direct election of senators? That's unconstitutional. Our founders could not be improved upon. Actually, the South came up with some improvements, some minor changes which were improvements, but we wouldn't allow them the time of day at this point. The South knew better than we did at the North. Yeah, and of course I'm up from Alaska, which means I'm super Yankee. Born in the North as well. I got educated in the South though. Mississippi helped grow me up quite a bit. I was educated in Italy. Those people helped me as well. I was educated in Germany, and those people really opened my eyes. Folks, there was nothing wrong with the German people. In fact, they were better than we were. And yet, here we are over there in Europe, waging war in an atypical fashion to destroy Germany. Why is that? What a horrible thing to do. And those people that are in charge, they've been put into power by the keepers, by the Rothschilds, who control everything. They bought all of our institutions and they corrupted everything. Not one of our traditions is up to par. Ask the mafia guys that are retired from the mafia and got converted. I'll say got saved because that's what they would say. They'll tell you this is worse than when they were in the mafia. This government is so dirty it's not funny. It's far worse than anything you can imagine. They are actively trying to kill us. Kill you and I. They use slow technology. And they use some fast stuff too. Let's restore the Republic. Let's do it soon. Let's get rid of those state governments that are incorporated. Let's restore organic state governments. That needs to happen at the level of the states. Let's shut down Washington, D.C. Let's wall off Washington District of Criminals. Declare it what it is. And let's process all of those folks inside of D.C. They're so corrupt. All of that money going to Ukraine is going back to those corrupt bastards' pockets. We have the best congressman money can buy. Don't give up your guns. Even Putin warned us more than a decade ago to hold on to them. It's this administration that's taken the country down. Don't comply with anything more. Resist. Stop participating in their stuff, especially their licensure schemes and all of that. Not even their taxes are legal. Their law enforcement sure ain't legal either. I don't trust the FBI one iota. I tried to work with them, went into their offices 3 times. I found them to be negligent. They don't want to enforce any laws, except for their masters, the Rothschilds. Serve Yahweh. Choose whom we will serve.